Hey everyone, welcome back to the Castaway Consultants, where we teach future Survivor players how to play the game by criticizing current players. Tonight we're talking about the penultimate episode of Season 44, Episode 12, I'm the Bandit. I'm one of your three wonderful hosts, Ryan Stacy, and I'm joined by two other ones who are also wonderful, Derek Kubicek and Josh Wessler. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing well. I hope I'm speaking for everybody, but this was another fun, normal episode of Survivor. Some good gameplay, some bad gameplay, some fun gameplay. This is what Survivor is again, and I love this. Let's keep doing this. I hope the finale rounds out strong, and I think that it will. I think
knowledge is power back at the final five.
Oh, don't even. And we also got to give a big middle finger to production.
Yeah, we did.
Once again.
We got a great middle finger towards production, which you always love to see. At least I do.
So that was hilarious.
Yeah.
How about you, Josh?
Yeah, I enjoyed the episode. Even though there was some very questionable decision making, that still made an entertaining episode. Even though, I'll admit I was deceived. I thought that something else was going to happen here, because it was the logical decision that should have been made. And it, I was fooled. So if you call that entertainment, yeah, I enjoyed it.
Well, honestly, it might just be easiest if we jump right into the spoiler section of the episode so we can talk about some of these things as sort of a preamble and then just get into the episode proper. So
spoiler alert for the episode. Go check it out.
3, 2, 1, and go.
Yeah, I was really expecting Carolyn to go home here. And now I'm leaning in. I think Carolyn's winning, man. I'm pretty sure it's going to happen.
She's winning the season.
It'll be really... Because for listeners, we'll tease this for the end, but we're in the penultimate episode. So instead of doing kind of a who can't win, which we'll still discuss a little bit, we get to do our final rank down. We get to try and predict the finale and who we think is going to win. And, maybe even if we want to have some extra credit, what will the vote differences be? So I'm excited to get into that. Stay tuned for the end of the episode. I'm excited. And I think we can all agree that Atika is winning the season 100%, right?
I mean, now it's 100%.
Yeah. Like
before tonight, just based on edit, I was saying, yeah, it's going to be Atika that wins this game just because I couldn't see how anyone else would win. But now just purely based on who could receive votes, I don't see any other way that a Tika member doesn't win.
I would bet literally everything I own that Atika wins. That's how confident I am.
Man, I would bet everything that I own, not jointly with my wife, because she would not approve.
That's fair.
That Atika wins this game.
Benefits of being single: I can bet everything I own with no consequences.
You own like 3 cereal boxes and some podcasting.
Hey,
equipment.
now I own a bunch of DVDs.
You're right. You own so many direct-to-DVD horror sequels.
I own. I think I counted recently. It's over 800 DVDs and Blu-rays.
Oh my goodness, dude!
807, I think the final count was.
With Netflix canceling their DVD subscription service,
maybe I should start my own.
Yeah, you could be like, Ryan's bad movies are us.
Hey, they're not all bad.
You can do the backwards R.
I definitely have the Lego Movie over there.
It's one good one.
Netflixer. We have more movies than Netflix does.
The name of the company can be I Am Better Than Netflix.
Most companies are. All right, you guys ready to jump into this episode?
Yeah.
Yep.
So the episode begins with everyone getting back to camp after tribal council, and Carolyn, she's not a magician because she's going to reveal all her tricks because she played the idol and she tells everyone how she got it, all the little schemes and plots she did with like fake idols and stuff like that. And everybody's like, oh, Carolyn might be good at this game. So that definitely paints a bigger target on her back. She almost goes home tonight.
It reminded me of Morgan Freeman at the end of Now You See Me, with Jam Jam particularly, where Morgan Freeman goes, "Well, a sucker is born every minute," quoting P.T. Barnum, even though that quote is questionably attributed to him. It doesn't matter. But Jam Jam was like, "Huh." There was a little bit more depth to this dungeon than I had originally considered. Maybe Carolyn has a real chance here, which again, by the way, I want to say again, I feel pretty validated that this was the right move for her to play the idol no matter what last week, because people saw it as, oh, she ensured her alliance got one day further, and now Tika has a stranglehold on the game. And Jam Jam's like, oh, that she did that. So it's really fun to watch all of this pulled together and to hear these players talk rationally about Who can they beat? Who do they need to worry about?
I'm actually going to push back on that a little bit, not to backtrack too much to last episode.
No, you're
but
fine.
I think that this could actually be a reason why she shouldn't have played her idol, is this brought a target on her that she could have pushed back one more episode. So if she played it this upcoming episode, or even the next one at Final 5, that threat level would still be there, because she'd be able to reveal all of this information, because it wasn't the whole keeping Tika together that brought a target on her. It was how she was explaining her process of doing all this stuff, and proving that there is actual thought and strategy behind what she says is the emotional state of Carolyn. That I think that delaying the idol play an episode or two could have made her a lot more safe, because I think that she probably should have been going home this episode, and she got pretty lucky that it wasn't her.
I want to chime in one other thing. My tinfoil hat, at least per the edit, was proven wrong. We saw no such revelation that Lauren and Jamie were clued in on the existence of Carolyn's idol. So retrospectively, we need to say that was a horrible move.
You need to say this is a horrible move, because Josh and I already said it.
Well, I did say on the podcast that ideally they take the shot at Carson whether or not the idol gets played for him, and they didn't do that. I did say that.
Sounds like Josh and I were right. Let's move on.
You can go ahead and do that if you want.
So the next morning, Heidi gets up to find the idol, and it turns into a big idol search, because everybody's like, let's get up and find the idol. This is the old Rick Devens move. Getting up nice and bright and early to go find the idol when it's still dark out.
The Ben Driebergen move, the Tony Vlachos move.
Great. They all do it. Nobody finds it, though.
And I was talking about
anticlimactic.
I was going to say, I'm not convinced there is one. Ryan says there might be.
There's 100% one still out there. When an idol gets played, a new one gets put back in.
But it's a pre-merge idol, and Heidi
matter.
has the post-merge idol.
Does not matter. There's no difference. There's no difference. There never has been. Sorry, Derek. You're wrong on this one. Big wrong.
And I mean, even if you're wrong, at the very worst, an idol was played this episode. So now one could be in for one final episode.
Yeah,
It's
so
the right move to look.
So here's the thing. The spot where you would be right is now, because, and I don't, so, okay, last time Carolyn played an idol. Idol goes back in the game, right? Now Heidi just played an idol. Nobody has found that other one, so I don't believe they don't put two in the game. Now there's still just the one hidden out there. So
I would hope so.
Yeah, they've never done that before. So there should just be one idol out in the jungle.
Yeah, it doesn't turn into an Easter egg hunt.
Yeah. So yeah, there should just be one out there, not two, just because Heidi played hers. And that's it, right? Nobody else has an idol right now?
We are all fresh out of hardware.
I think so.
As of now.
No other advantages either.
There'll be something stupid in Final 5.
I'm sure.
Lauren and Jamie, they end up talking to Carson and Jam Jam about taking out Carolyn, because she's a huge threat now. And they're like, yeah, we're on board. But Carson is not actually on board. He wants to take out a Raw team member to keep the TK3, the Three Stooges, together. So that's kind of the big debate of this episode. Should the TK3 split up or not?
And Carson brings up a good point. He might bring it up later in the episode, but we can talk about it here. He says that Carolyn, although she is up to threat level, is loyal. Mm-hmm. And that's why I don't think for someone like Carson, who is arguably the biggest, if not the second biggest threat to win the game, it makes sense for him to want to keep Tika together. And I think that probably for Jam Jam, this is also the right move. And depending on how Carolyn feels about her chances, I think it might be the right move for her to stick with Tika for one more vote. It's really hard to say.
And we will say by the end of the episode.
And we will. It's hard to say, but we'll do it anyway.
We're going to do it. It's a tough job, but no one else is going to do it except all the other Survivor podcasts. But we're the best at it. Okay, reward challenge. We get. I love this challenge. It's the one where somebody is stuck inside a ball, and the hamster ball gets pushed around by the others who are blindfolded, and then the person in the ball's got to direct them.
The Russell Swan Memorial Challenge.
The Russell Swan Memorial Challenge. Rip. I love this challenge. Put it in every season. I want to be in the ball. I really want to be in the ball.
Man, when I was younger, I'd want to be, but nowadays, absolutely not.
I love that kind of stuff.
I'll do it, but
I don't know. If I ever have a decision, it's to not be blindfolded in a Survivor challenge. Because I appreciate my kneecaps intact.
Very true. If there's a blindfold challenge, don't wear the blindfold. Try and sit out of that one. That's the one to sit out of.
And people usually don't get mad at the person who's giving instructions unless you do a really bad job.
You gotta do a real bad job. So Carson, Jam Jam, and Lauren, they go on reward. Everyone's scheming and plotting. Jamie and Heidi talk about Carolyn. Or talk to Carolyn about maybe voting on Carson next because they think Carson's the biggest threat. Yeah, I think so. I think Carson's probably number one on the board.
This is a fair point. I think it's a toss up. But if they're saying Carson, either that's who they felt like they had the best opportunity to split Carolyn up with at the time, because Carson spent time away from Tika Beach. So maybe they're like, we're not even going to try and drive a wedge between her and Jam Jam. So I still think this is the right angle to attack. Like you want to put the focus on, I think, one of the Tika guys.
For sure. Maybe get someone to split up.
And I know we keep flipping back and forth on if it's Jam Jam or if it's Carson, but I do think that it is Carson at this point, just based on how people are talking.
Yeah. Everyone says he'll beat everyone at the end, so whatever. And I have no reason to suspect otherwise. I think he's got the best social game of everybody left. Carolyn, just like Carson, is like, yeah, at some point he'll probably have to go, not this time. So they say they're going to go along with it, they're not really. So Carson and Carolyn are pretty much on the same wavelength. Heidi wants to go to the end with Carolyn and Jam Jam, and she doesn't just say this to the other players. She says this at a confessional,
and that's why I was so shocked. Like at first I had to go back and remember she didn't say this to Carolyn. I mean, she said it to Carolyn, but then she said it like again. I don't actually, that's like the second worst thing for you to do, and I'm not sure exactly what the worst thing is for you to do.
Terrible plan.
This is horrible.
Heidi's really bad at Survivor.
How?
I feel like this is almost more evidence that we're not being shown a big chunk of the game, kind of like we talked about last week. Just because this and the decision that was made later on in the episode, like the threat levels just have to be different than what we are perceiving them as, because it just doesn't make sense.
Well, the players have told us Carson, Jam Jam, and Carolyn are all threats. They have told us this. They haven't said this really about the others as much. A little bit of Lauren, a smidge of Jamie, nothing about Heidi, because I think Heidi's just genuinely terrible at this game.
And maybe what Heidi is doing, she's looking at the makeup of the jury, because there's no Tika members there.
None.
And you know what? Historically, that's not a bad way to read the jury, but that's assuming that the people who are left in the game from Soka and Ratu in this particular instance are actually doing something to drive the game. Tika's been driving the game 100% since the merge. And anyone on the other tribes who did any sort of driving, they're already gone.
Oh, yeah.
They're long gone. So it's a very short-sighted way to view the game, maybe a little too one-dimensional. I'm not sure, but this was the most shocking thing that happened in the episode to me.
That actually makes a lot of sense, Derek. It's almost like a really old school mindset that they might be operating in. And obviously I think it's incorrect. You guys think that it's incorrect, but who knows what the people in the game, what they end up valuing. They might just be way overly just loyal to their original tribes,
which
I
is something to
that's
consider.
Not the case.
That is always something to consider, because you just have more time to spend with those people on your original tribes and form that early bond. That is something to keep in mind, but still, Heidi, come on.
Yeah.
So Carolyn and Carson, they get on the same page. They're like, cool, we got to take out Aratu. Leaning toward Lauren at this point. But Jam Jam, he's like, this might be the time to make a move against one of the other ones. This might be the time. Take out Carolyn. Jamie's like, yeah, as long as it's a Tika, that sounds good to me. So really the big question is, what does Jam Jam want to do at this point? Lauren's going to win immunity, so can't be her. Obviously, that leaves Jamie. So Jamie's kind of the target.
And all three of us are wrong on our who's going home next on Survivor, taken out with one fell swoop.
We all had Lauren going in this episode. But she wins immunity. So the Tika 3, they all talk with Heidi, and they're all on board, seemingly to take out Jamie. Heidi, what are you doing?
Like, Jamie is one of the people that you need most. Like, if there is original tribe loyalty going on in the tribes, you almost want Jamie more, and you want to take out Lauren. Like, if you're going to do one of those, otherwise you need to break up the Tika. Heidi,
Jamie, and Lauren have to stick together for any of them to win. It'll probably be Lauren, but they will lose the other three. The three of them have to stick together. And I think if the three of them stand hard, we got to take out Carolyn. I think Jam Jam would have jumped ship.
I think he would have too.
And that would have been the right move for those three. Anything else is disaster.
Well, I mean, if you think about alternate scenario, if they pull the whole, we are willing because we know we can't win this game unless it's us three at the end, because you all beat us. If you stand firm with going to rocks, we haven't seen that as a strategy in a while. Not actually going to rocks, but just threatening the fact that you go to rocks. I bet that someone like Jam Jam would balk there and
Yeah.
vote against Carolyn.
Well,
I think so.
And didn't we see Carson kind of do the same thing earlier this season where he wouldn't save Helen?
Yeah. He wasn't
like-
going to go to Rocks for Helen.
Yeah, we talked about him playing chicken with Jam Jam early on, and Jam Jam won the game of chicken.
Yep.
So we already have seen Carson balk one time.
I don't know what Heidi is doing, man. I have no idea what she is thinking.
She's got a vision, the wrong vision, but at
Wrong
least she
vision.
has a vision. She sees herself at the end, not winning, but at the end. And maybe
She's like the Michael Bay of Survivor. She has a vision. It's just bad.
you know, and we also have to wonder, maybe she's just playing for third place money at this point.
I don't see that though.
I don't
know,
think so.
I really don't see that. You know, Laurel was doing that.
Yeah,
I don't think Heidi is doing that.
yeah.
Laurel will forever get crap from me. Forever.
Hey, you know what? If you can pay off your student loans in 39 days, go for it.
Great. I'm
efficiency
gonna give
right
you
there.
crap forever for
Now-
being like the
now,
worst.
Yeah, the opportunity cost is like, I don't want to watch you play again, but like, get that bag while you can. I respect it.
There you go. And this might be a good opportunity just to shout this out, but Blake on Twitter asked, he actually mentioned that it reminds him of the Black Widow Brigade and Russell's villains. So what is the strategy if you're on the outside of a power alliance? Everyone seems to be afraid right now to make a move against them. Someone has to be on the bottom of the alliance too, and they always stand pat. And, you know, I don't think there's a great solution, Blake, but I think that forcing, you know, them to make a decision about going to Rocks, if you are in that tough of a situation, that might just be the way to go.
Yep.
Oh, and I think it's even easier than that because we're forgetting that Heidi has an idol. If she's playing with her brain right now, she gets in with Tika. She knows that they're targeting Jamie, says, I'm going to vote Jamie, plays her idol on Jamie, votes out one of the Tika.
That would have been a baller move. It might actually give Heidi a chance to win.
It might give her a chance to up herself above maybe a Carolyn. Maybe. I don't know.
That would have been a baller move from Heidi.
So that's something that she could have done to dictate this move, and she
Good thinking. Derek.
chose not to. And as long as we're talking about ideal things, I still think that Carolyn should also be jumping ship from Tika. Maybe not now, but
Definitely the final five for sure.
But if she did it now, I wouldn't be upset to be like, hey, let's make a women's alliance and take out Jam Jam or Carson. Both of them are vulnerable. We didn't even see her consider it hugely. We saw her approached about Carson, but we didn't see her doing like the back and forth. We just saw her say, oh yeah, I'm not going with Carson eventually, but that was lip service. We didn't see that in confessional, which is what I want to see from her.
So Jam Jam, Jamie, and Lauren talked. They all agreed to vote Carolyn. So Jam Jam and Carson talked, and this is the crux of everything. What do they want to do? Do they go after Carolyn? Do they turn on her, or do they just stand pat, stay with the Tika 3, take out Jamie? Jam Jam does mention that Carolyn is a big threat at fire. She's very good at making fire. Everyone, be a big fire threat, just in case. Just have that in your pocket, because if you get to the final four and you're amazing at making fire, you're not going home. Just be amazing at fire. And
I mean,
don't tell people that, but you know, practice before you go out there.
Yeah, but that could also be, you know, if it is a known thing like this, then
Make sure it's not a known thing.
Get you out at 5 instead.
Yeah. So here's with this fire making final four, which we need to get rid of, Jeff. I know you're listening.
Even though he has said many times that it's not going away.
Jeff,
So be ready.
you're terrible. You're the worst. I despise you, and I want you off Survivor. Anyway, be a fire wizard and don't ever make fire on the show. Don't ever do it, or fake being bad at it. You just need to not have that reputation. But yeah, I go on Survivor. I'm not making fire. I'm gonna practice all the time before I go out there. I have made fire with Flint before. I'm actually not bad at it at all. Nobody is going to know that except for the people who listen to this podcast once we get out there.
And it bears repeating because this has been a big topic after Jesse's loss in 43. If you go out on the island and you don't know, or you're not proficient at making fire with Flint and a machete, that's your fault.
Yeah, that's your fault.
And I mean, like, don't get me wrong, Carson, you know, you can't 3D print Flint, but I'm convinced that he loses at fire making. And if what we're hearing about what Carolyn is, he might lose fire making to Carolyn.
I'm thinking about that. What if Carolyn defeats Carson at fire making?
And we're certainly being set up for the emotional pack-a-punch that'll come with that. Like, that's my boy, that's my kid.
That'll be great. I hope that happens. That'll be awesome TV.
And then he'll just the exact same thing as during the Idol. Just, I'm so proud of you.
Oh, so wholesome.
And Carolyn wins.
But yep, so that's something Jam does point out. So be good at making fire. Don't let anyone know you're good at it. Tribal Council, they all bring all the crap from their camp with them because they're like, we're gonna get sent to a new beach.
Smart.
I loved this. Get wrecked production.
They give the rice to Lauren because she's the only one not going home.
Yep.
This is genius.
This is all Lauren's stuff. I love this from them. That's wonderful. Production, just stop. It's no one cares about like the whole new camp. We don't need to do this anymore. No one cares.
This is a new phase of the game, and it's tougher than ever. No,
it's
stop.
not. It's
this,
not.
This last phase of the game lasts 2 days.
They
Come
even
on.
brought the painting supplies.
That was funny. So at first I'm like, why did Carolyn bring that? She just wanted to take it with her in case she goes home. And then I saw everyone brought everything. So that's great. We can stop. Production, you've lost this game. You lost the game of Survivor with this twist. Move on.
I immediately said that like next season they're gonna start chaining anchors to everything at camp, or they're gonna put the rice in like a 2-ton chest or something like that.
You can't take anything from camp with you. Shut up.
But then they bring Jonathan back and he just loads it up on his back anyway.
Jam is going to give one a hell of a performance in making it seem like he's voting for Carolyn. And I think he was just making sure Jamie doesn't play an idol.
This is the ghost of Jamie's idol making a return, though it was not openly discussed in the episode.
But yeah, he hams it up like, oh, this is so hard. And Carolyn's like, what the bleep?
I think Carolyn genuinely thought she was going home.
Yep.
No, I would have. I absolutely would have.
I was fully convinced. Just give Jam the Oscar.
It would be an Emmy. This is TV, sir.
Just go ahead and give him the Emmy.
Heidi plays her idol for no damn reason. 4 votes for Jamie, 2 votes for Carolyn, and then they get sent to the new beach. This is the wrong move.
Josh, what did Twitter think?
Oh boy. You really want to know what Twitter thought about this one?
Yes. Because like I want to know this first before we discuss.
Yeah, so we actually got a decent amount of votes on this one, and it wasn't even close. 85% of Twitter said that the right person went home.
No, they're
What?
wrong. They just love the Tika 3. They love Caroline. No. The right person to go home was actually probably Carson. But really any of the Tika 3. In all honesty, you could convince me that a tie was the right move, but I think that one of the Tikas probably should have turned on the other, because as long as one of them is confident in fire making, they'll be fine, I think. Because then you just have to get through 5 and then 4, and you could paint the other person as a target. So I'm kind of leaning towards the Tika 3 should have split up here, and it really doesn't matter which one of the Tika 3 it is, but one of them has to go. So yeah, probably Carolyn, maybe Carson.
I agree that one of the Tika needs to go, and I'll get a little bit more specific. I do think that Jam and Carson are slightly above Carolyn. That puts Carolyn at the bottom, and that means that I think she needed to jump ship, work with Heidi, Lauren, and Jamie to send Jam or Carson home. Probably Carson based on the edit we got this episode, but I could have been happy with either. And then Carolyn kind of controls her destiny to the end to a certain extent, because there are still one bigger threat that needs to get voted out at 5. And if she's a master at fire, she can get through 4. There's a great argument to bring her to the final 3 no matter what. Wrong person no matter what, but I would have been satisfied with a Tika going home for game theory.
I think Lauren just lost the game here.
I think
based on numbers, Lauren loses the game here.
I think Lauren and Heidi, just because the entire
Heidi already
time,
lost the game.
You can make the argument, at least from like Heidi's perspective, like, oh, maybe she can beat Lauren because of X, Y, and Z when she's up against Lauren and Jamie. Who cares? When it comes down to it, this is really tricky, because if you're Tika, we're already right now at the final 6 splitting hairs between Jam and Carson about who might be the bigger threat between the two of them. And even then, here comes Carolyn out of nowhere as a potential threat. We have seen how many times, especially in this new era, where a random person has their threat level increased at the end of the game, and based on recency bias, the jury gives them the win.
Mm-hmm.
So, you could have an argument for all 3 of the Tika members right now as it sits. If all 3 of them went to Final Tribal together, I think that there would be a split of votes to all 3 people, and it would be, I don't even know how the votes would lay out. So because of that, if you're one of the Tika here in the game still, you need to try to plan to only be the only Tika remaining at Final Tribal. don't put any of it up to chance. Don't have it be a situation where it's a 1A and a 1B fighting against each other at the end. And, maybe the jury just gives it to the other person because they liked him a little bit better. Who knows? So, regardless of whoever you are, if you're Jam Jam or Carson, you got to take out Carolyn. And if you're Carolyn, you got to take out someone like Carson because that's who the other people are wanting to vote for. That's not even mentioning the other 3 people on this tribe, needing to take out one of them. So regardless of who it actually ended up being, either Carson or Carolyn, if Carolyn is better at fire, I'd probably say that she should be the first one to go. It should have been one of them.
Yeah. I want to revise my statement. I'm going to say Carson should have been the Tika to go because he spent time on Ratu Beach and there's plenty of Ratu on the jury.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So I will lock that in.
If I have to lock one in, probably Carson, but it's like 1A, 1B for Carson and Carolyn. It should have been one of those two. If you can't get Carson, take out Carolyn, it's fine. They both have to go, and Jam Jam has to go. I do want to point out, this is not a new era thing. We can go all the way back to season 6, Jenna Maraska. She got hot right at the end. She wanted to quit when at the final 5, and then got hot right at the end and won the game. So this has been around since the early era. So
it would have been more difficult in the final 3 era for Jenna Maraska to turn that around because she had to go with Matt
and Rob.
Yeah,
Rob would have won.
Rob would have won handily
in the final 3 era. But that getting hot at the end and out of nowhere winning, that's been around since at least season 6.
Yeah, not new.
And this is not a new era. I reject that this is a new era of Survivor.
And I wasn't saying it was only in the new era. It just seems like it's happened more frequently, a higher percentage of the time here in the new era.
Sure.
Than it did, before. And I will actually change my mind. I think, now that you say that, I think that Carson would have been the better person to go today, just because I don't think Carolyn has a shot to win an immunity challenge. So you can take her out next tribal, and then leave Jam Jam to be taken out at fire if you're the other 3, or from Jam Jam's perspective, win.
Sure. All right, let's get into best and worst player of the episode. For best player, I had Jam Jam. He and Carson, this is fine enough for them to get rid of Jamie, I thought. But Jam Jam's performance at the Tribal Council was what sold it for me, so I'm going to give mine to Jam Jam.
Yep, for the Emmy winning, or what should be an Emmy nominated performance, at the very least, I have to give it to Jam Jam. But I want to nod to Carson's social abilities, that even though he should have been a larger target than he was, that he received no votes. But ultimately, I give it to Jam Jam.
Josh?
Yeah, and that's actually the reason why I'm going to give it to Carson, is because I think that he probably should have been the person to go. It wasn't him, and even when his name was brought up for a split second, it didn't take long for it to shift over to Carolyn. And I think he, between him and Jam Jam, I think that he has more to lose, it seems like, if you can frame it that way. I already said that Carolyn should go home from both their perspectives, but I feel like between Carson and Jam Jam, Carson is in better shape than Jam Jam now going forward, with Carolyn still around.
Worst player, Derek, who you got?
Heidi. Now, Heidi already couldn't win the game in my book, but the fact that she could have played this idol and given herself a fighting chance in an ideal final 3, play the idol on Jamie, and by proxy that knocks Carolyn out of the game. Maybe she tosses a vote on Jam Jam, or Carson, just in case of shenanigans. She dictates the vote. She keeps the other 2 people that she can beat, like the only 2 people she has a chance against in the game, and moves on. It's not what she did. And instead, her idea of a final 3 is about as bad as it could be. So I have Heidi.
Josh?
Yeah, Heidi was a long shot going into the episode. She was on my can't win the game list for the last 4 episodes, but she could have given herself a fighting chance. And that's really all you can ask for when you're at the final 6. Play the idol correctly, force the issue, and take out a Tika member. She did none of those things. It's Heidi.
Carolyn might have gotten lost at the challenge, but Heidi is lost in this game.
And now she absolutely can't win the game.
Yep. All right. My worst is also Heidi, because obviously. Absolutely terrible. All right. So we're going into the finale now. So let's do this first. Let's do a little bit out of order. Let's talk about who are the 2 people left who can't win the game. I think we're all on the same page. But Josh, why don't you start us off? Who are the 2 people who cannot win this game no matter what?
I think we've said it enough. It's Heidi and Lauren.
Agreed.
Yep. Open, shut. It doesn't matter who they face. Even if they are the two people at the end with one remaining person, it doesn't matter.
What just get completely gabled, like alligablered again? But yeah, it's Heidi and Lauren.
I'll be even more mad if it happens this time.
Yeah.
Because like they've gotten Lauren and Heidi have gotten even less screen time than Gabler.
I feel like Jam Jam got more confessionals this episode than both of them have had all season combined.
I feel like it. Yeah, kind of.
And that's actually not what I wouldn't be upset about it because like the confessional count, because I don't think Gabler actually had that much until the finale. But what I would be more upset about is the distance that I feel between them and the rest of the players.
Yeah.
You know, there were arguments all over the place about Owen and Cassidy and like the gap between them and Gabler. I don't think it's even close this season.
Let's talk about how this finale is going to shake out. Normally we do who's going next week, but we're at the end now. And this will kind of play into our survivor pool as well with me and Josh. But let's talk about what we think is going to happen here, how this is going to play out. I can go first. I think at the final 5, Jam Jam is going, because I think based on the story of this episode, Jam Jam is a choice, the really hard choice to vote out Carolyn. He doesn't do it. It comes back to bite him. Jam Jam goes out at 5. Fire making, Carson's going to lose to Carolyn. Final 3 is Carolyn, Lauren, Heidi, and Carolyn is the winner of Survivor 44. Derek?
I don't have the same thing as you, but it's getting close to the same idea. I actually have the Tika 3 sticking together. So I have Lauren going out at 5. But then I have Heidi winning the immunity challenge and sending Carson and Carolyn to fire making together. Carson goes home, leaving us with a final 3 of Heidi, Carolyn, and Jam Jam. And I have Heidi drawn dead. I have Carolyn at 2, and I have Jam Jam at 1. And I think that split is going to be maybe 1 vote.
I really hope that happens. Nightmare scenario, and it's not really nightmare since I like everyone left on Tika. But I really hope it's not just one Tika member versus the other 2, because then there's no drama. Come on. Mine is basically the same as Ryan's. We got some information from Carolyn this episode where she basically said that she needs to get out Carson. And it's not time yet. Like, Tika still needs to control this game. Okay, well, now Tika controls the game, and this is going to be the last vote to where you can actually vote someone out. So I think that she's going to target Carson in this next episode. However, I think Carson wins immunity and disrupts that plan, and she instead has to turn on Jam Jam. So I think Jam Jam goes out at 5, like Ryan said, even though that wasn't going to be the original plan. And then it's Carolyn and Carson at fire making, where Carolyn beats him and Carolyn wins the game. I think that Lauren and Heidi, though, will both get 1 vote and tie for second.
Yeah, I think that's mine too. I think they'll get 1 vote and tie for second.
Oh,
that's actually mine too.
I was hoping I was going to be a little bit different than you.
No, I think we're completely simpatico. So that brings us to the survivor pool, which is tricky. So I guess since we have the same final 5, do we have to do it where we both pick the same people? Carolyn and Heidi are both given up by us. So do we have to pick someone who we think is safe at the final 5, safe at the final 4?
Yeah.
Okay.
So and we both have the same people left. So we both only have since we have both used Heidi already
and Carolyn
and Carolyn, sorry, so we only have Carson, Jam Jam, and Lauren to choose from. So what we'll do is we will pick who we think is the safest, or who we don't think. Strategically, you do have to think about it a little bit, who you think is not going to get voted out at 5, and then who you think is not going to go home at fire at 4. Okay. And then maybe we'll try to think of a tiebreaker on top of that.
I got my 2 locked in. You want to go first?
Sure. You have yours written down?
I do. Derek, you can be my witness.
So I'm trying to play this smartly, and maybe I'm playing it too, maybe I'm thinking about it a little too much, but
it's only 3 choices.
I know. But there's a lot of stuff built into those 3 choices. For the first vote at final 5, I am going with Lauren.
Lauren is safe at 5, you think?
Yep.
Wow.
Okay. Disagree. I have someone different. I have Carson. I think Carson is safe at 5.
So if either one of those two go out, game's over.
Game's over there.
Yep.
But if we both make it through.
But if we both make it through, my pick for fire is going to be Jam Jam.
Okay, and I have Lauren making it through fire. Okay,
Cool.
so this is a little different than last season. I think
Yep.
I think one of us will lose.
I do too.
But if we both survive all the way through, then then I don't know what we do.
I have a question. So Ryan has Lauren making it through fire, but what if Lauren goes out at 5?
Then I lose because I picked Lauren.
Oh
for
yeah,
the
well
first one.
Josh will lose first.
Huh.
If Lauren goes out at 5, it's over.
Yep. Can I tell you my reasoning? So
Yeah.
my thought process here of why I did it that way is because I don't think Carson has a shot to make it to the end. I think he's either going to go out at 5 or fire making it because of, the edit and everything we talked about this episode and last episode. So I'm not touching him with the 10-foot pole in either of these. So I excluded him completely. And then I'm like, well, Jam Jam, I think that Jam Jam actually will go at this first vote. So I can't put him there. So that's why I ended up with Lauren. And then I just defaulted to Jam Jam for fire.
And I'm convinced Carson loses at fire making, so.
And I still think that Carson will go out at fire making. But this is a way for me to avoid that entire situation completely.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens. We could very well end with a tie for this season.
Yeah, we'll have to think of a tiebreaker in the meantime between now and next week.
Okay, guys. I think that's everything for going into the finale. Can you guys think of anything else you want to talk about before we wrap things up for the night?
No,
No, I don't think so. You can follow us on Twitter or Instagram at Castaway Pod, and then Facebook, YouTube, TikTok are Castaway Consultants. We have a website, which is the Castaway Consultants. Chime in heading into the finale. We will answer any questions that you have regarding the finale. If you just want to send us your predictions to be able to brag about being right, that works too.
Yeah, and I will actually get the questions posted on Spotify because apparently I need to refresh my browser in order to get that to work. So my apologies to the people for the last 2 episodes, apparently. And Josh, thank you for bringing it to my attention. I don't participate in our polls because I don't want to skew the data.
All right. This has been the Castaway Consultants.
Got nothing else for you.
Good night.